Hello there everybody, this is Krista and welcome back to Crochet Witch Tarot. And today we're doing a VR to the hashtag Beloved Monsters decks put out by Fairlight Tarot. I'm so excited. She started out her video by saying that she felt like there hasn't been a lot of tags going around lately. And yes, so right. And I love doing tags, so here we are, very excited. So let's just get into it. So our first deck is the Frankenstein, a collage deck that is misunderstood but has a heart of gold. So my choice for this that I am like 80% sure is collage. It is, oh, yes, can confirm. On the back it says collage. Okay, my choice is the Touchstone Tarot. And now why I say it is misunderstood is really just because this is the latest printing of it, which is not typically favorable compared to some of the past readings. And that is pretty much just because it is done on this really glossy cardstock. I know the borders were changed, the way the titles look are changed, but really just this very, very, very glossy cardstock, which I don't tend to mind, and I think it's just because I love this deck so much. Now, that's not to say if I had the opportunity to get a different copy of it, of course, but there is sometimes something about using an extra glossy deck. It kind of makes it feel, oh, what's the word? I don't know. It like really bright and vibrant. I find that there is that kind of perk to a glossy cardstock, is it makes everything shiny, but not in the obvious way that would mean. But I'm not really sure how else to explain that. There's a vibrancy to it. But I just really love this one, and why I picked it for kind of, you know, being misunderstood but having a heart of gold is just, I feel like this deck is my own personal set of all individual guides. I think it's definitely to do with the fact that they are made to look like framed pieces of art. So it's not one that I tend to pull more than one card from personally. I think it probably would look really cool if you did, but because it so intensely comes through for me as these individual guide energies, I really like pulling one, and it works so well for me in that way. Oh, hello. And I just love this deck, I really do. I love all things Cat Black has done, honestly, like the Golden Tarot, another amazing choice, but couldn't pick that one because, like, oh, look at that strength card. So beautiful. I couldn't pick that one because it's now out on the linen cardstock, which is gorgeous, which I actually would be kind of interested to see this one done on that as well. I don't know how that would work, but I don't know. That'd be interesting. But anyway, that is my choice for the Frankenstein, and this is the Touchstone Tarot. Next up is the Dracula, a deck that is sensual and sophisticated, and my choice for that is the SheWolf Tarot. Now this one certainly has a sensualness to it, probably more so than a lot of other decks I have, although a close contender for this one is the, oh no, I'm not remembering what it's called. Darn, no, that's gonna bother me. I know it's right on my shelf, so I gotta look. I've trapped myself, though. The Abyssal Tarot. But this one won out because of that layer of adding the word sophisticated. Not to say that the Abyssal isn't, but when I think of sophisticated, to me, it's like that idea of high society. My brain always goes to academia for some reason, like people who learn for the sake of learning in this like high society standard way. And so my mind immediately went to this deck because it is Thoth based, and something about that to me gives off the vibe of that like high society learning, really. I can't think of the word I'm thinking of. Another word for like college, but not you know, like a phrase for it, like higher learning. I don't know. Anyways, it gives me that vibe of like basically a bunch of what are my words? I don't know what I'm trying to explain. I'm thinking like old dusty library, but to me, Thoth brings, and maybe this is because of thinking of the figure of Aleister Crowley, brings to mind just like a bunch of old dudes studying something, which this deck is not that. Clearly it is very, very, very based in the feminine, which I really like, and this is sort of, this deck is my first approach to Thoth at all. And I think too, when I hear the word sophisticated, intimidating. That is just an intimidating way to be for me. And that's kind of how I feel about the Thoth system. It is just kind of intimidating to me. And so I've really enjoyed this deck for approaching it, but there is this undeniable sensuality to it as well, which I think maybe brings it all, because it's this like feminine sensuality, it brings it to this place that maybe feels more familiar and comfortable for me. Anyways, I'm talking a lot about that. So that is my Dracula deck. Ooh, ending on the death card, spooky. And that is the SheWolf Tarot. Next, we've got the Werewolf, a deck that is best used in under a full moon. Love this question. For me, it is definitely the Intuitive Night Goddess. Now, this one has kind of a dual purpose for me. I love this tarot. I haven't had it out quite a bit because of that, the dual nature it has for me, and that is, it feels like nighttime to me because, of course, Intuitive Night Goddess, but something about these backgrounds that are definitely supposed to be stars feels like snow. So this one to me very specifically feels like nighttime during the winter. But this deck is one that, or I guess I should say, because I use it outside of winter, but my uses for it either are nighttime or any time of the day in the winter. That's where this one falls for me. That is what I meant to say. But there is, because it is set in nighttime, it just makes so much sense for me to use it under the full moon. And to me, if I am doing any sort of moon work, it is usually connected to doing some sort of deity work. And so I really like having this just general goddess energy in this deck. That is something I really, really love about it. I like that in no place, like in the guidebook or necessarily in these images, do we get a specific deity figure. So I think it makes it just really amazingly universal. I can kind of use it to connect with whoever I want to connect with. And I just think it's really, really beautiful. I love this one, and I'm just so glad that I've got it pulled out again, because it really, now I want to use it now. We've got the full moon tomorrow. So, perhaps this will be its first time out in a bit, because I really love this deck. It is so good, and just, it is so perfect for that moon, nighttime energy. It just feels very magical, and I feel like if I'm doing a moon reading, I want to be shrouded in mysticism and magicalness. So, that is my pick for the werewolf, and that is the Intuitive Night Goddess Tarot. The next category is the Grim Reaper, a deck that feels very final and unmovable. My pick for this one the Murder of Crows. This deck is no joke. Like, really no joke. This is definitely not my usual style at all. But I was so curious about it because of seeing Jess from Jess Reads Cards pair it with the Divine Muses Oracle, which it is so beautiful with. But oh my gosh, every time I've done a reading with this deck, it's like the way that this category was described by Fairlight Tarot, or the deck that she chose, she was saying that it's like kind of in that phrase of when people say like, oh, it doesn't pull any punches, except that it's kind of in this way of like, you're going to get the hard message and there is no other way you are going to be able to see what it's saying. Like there is no twisting it to the positive. It's just is what it is. And that's how this deck reads for me. And I think it's just something to do with the intensity of the images. It feels like a shadow work deck to the extreme, where even like with something like my Somnia Tarot, I feel like there still is just an ounce of lightness in that deck where it can still offer a little bit of, I don't know if supportiveness maybe is kind of what I'm trying to say. Where this deck feels like pure shadow to me. That's how it reads. It's just, it is not offering a kindness, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So it just really felt like it fit this Grim Reaper category so perfectly. Like as soon as, when I was watching Fairlight Tarot, why I'm saying that, so Fairlight Tarot's video, and she came upon this category, I was like, oh, Murder of Crows for me, 100%. And kind of interesting, because she had the Crow's Magic, I'm pretty sure, for this category. So interesting that it's two Crow decks. Didn't even think of that. But that is my Grim Reaper deck, and it is the Murder of Crows Tarot. Next up, we've got the Creature from the Black Lagoon, a deck that loves water, but it's not afraid of getting dirty. Now, every other category, I really did try to keep it to tarot, just so I wasn't, like, totally all over the place. But when it came to this category of water, I really don't have many decks that feel watery. That's just not my thing. So, but I knew I have an oracle that is exactly this category, so I had to pull it out and make the exception. And that is the Myths and Mermaids oracle. I love this oracle deck, especially in the summertime. Like, this is my kind of watery deck. It feels like something I can utilize even when I'm not by, like, the ocean. And why I thought this fit this category of a deck that loves water but isn't afraid to get dirty is because this deck also reads very super shadowy for me. And I think it's also something to do with Jasmine Beckett Griffith's art and the big-eyed girls that we all know and a lot of us love. I won't say we all love, but I certainly love. And there really is an intensity to this deck, and I find that with all of her decks. Something about the artwork just really brings a certain level of just instantaneous intensity. And so it feels like a watery oracle that the uniqueness to me of this compared to the few other watery decks I have is that we are getting into the emotion, but not in the way of kind of gently exploring or supportively exploring. This one feels almost similar to that last category of like, it's really not going to pull any punches and you're not going to change what it's saying. Like, you just can't. But it always hits right in that emotional space because of the watery theme to it for me. But it is going to, it feels like a deck that exists it doesn't exist at like the surface level of the water. It's like in the depths. Sorry, possibly horrible image for some of you. Me too, but I'm gonna say it anyway. It's like, you know, when your feet accidentally touch the bottom of a lake. Oh my gosh. Terrible! And I don't mean that in any offensive way, but like, this deck feels like it takes you into that muck. Like, it's gonna make you uncomfortable in the ways you need to be made uncomfortable. And I love it. I love it for that. I think it's so fantastic. Look at this card. Oh, Alchemical Seas. So gorgeous. So, that is my pick for the creature of the Black Lagoon, and that is the Myths and Mermaids Oracle. The next deck to show is the Freddy Krueger, a scruffy deck that has a terrifying sense of humor. My pick for that is the Wizard's Tarot. This is from Wizard of Barge. This deck is just kind of insane, and I love it so much for that. I really do. But it is like, it's dark and weird, and actually look at, doesn't that even kind of look like Freddy Krueger? Like in some kind of way. But this deck is like, it's weird, it's like weirdly kind of raunchy. It's nonsensical, and it really, it makes me laugh. But the things that it's making me laugh at is like, ooh, that's kind of dark. They're just, oh my gosh, this one makes me smile. Like, look at this. That's kind of a dark image, but how funny. It's so funny. It's just like a weird, twisted, fun deck to me. And it makes me think of the, like, early 2000s, Cartoon Network, but then there was also, like, that Cartoon Network at night that was more for, like, teenagers, which I wasn't watching at the time, probably, who knows, but like that kind of era, like Futurama, but also that early 2000s era of Cartoon Network where it was like the humor was just being like gross and we all thought it was hilarious, and it was hilarious. I'm thinking like Ed, Edd and Eddy, that kind of cartoon vibe. Oh gosh, I loved that show. My sisters thought that show was so stupid, and oh, it was my favorite. It really was. But it also really reminds me of Futurama, where sometimes it's just like gross to be gross, and I love that. Oh my gosh, I just think this deck is so bizarre. I haven't brought this out yet this season, and I really should. But it's just, like, look at, that's gross, right? But funny. Amazing. I love it. So that is my pick for the Freddy Krueger deck, and that is the Wizard's Tarot, which I'll put all links below, but I'm pretty sure this one is available, and it's decently, for an indie deck, I remember being pretty affordable. So anyway, that is that, the Freddy Krueger deck. Okay, next up we've got the doll-like deck that may stab you in the back. Now my brain also instantly went to the Nicoletta Ciccoli Tarot, but I don't know if I would say that one necessarily stabs me in the back. It brings up some tough stuff. I really like using that one for inner child work, and it brings up some tough stuff, but it doesn't feel like too abrasive to me in that way. I don't know, so I honestly didn't really have an answer for this one. So instead, I'm gonna show just like a doll-like deck. I don't know, this one's very new to me. I don't know it well enough to say it like stabs me in the back, so we're just looking at it for its doll-likeness. But that is which is the front? Here it is. The Vacant House Tarot. This is one that recently came in from Kickstarter, and I am just loving it. I think it's so great. These are the backs. There was a deluxe edition you could get where all of the fronts of the cards were the same light blue instead of the different colors you will see in here, and then the backs were light blue, and honestly, it was really pretty. But I love this version too. And I like when like the suits have different colors and stuff, but this is meant to be like take place kind of in an abandoned Victorian era house. So it's got a lot of like creepy dolls in here. It feels almost like all these separate vignettes of like puppets. They're not puppets, but it makes me think of puppets, like how it looks like the curtains are opening. It makes me feel like, or reminds me of those old-fashioned puppet stages. But I mean, this is undeniably doll-like, right? And I feel like there is an intensity to this deck for sure. I have not read with it enough to know if it's got that kind of like stab you in the back energy. But it's got the potential, right? I don't know. But I just think the artwork on this is so cool. I will certainly be showing this again in my recent acquisitions video, which probably will be coming up next week. But this just fit the category too well, and I wanted to show it. So, this is my Chucky deck, and it is the Vacant House Tarot. Next up, we've got the Zombie, which is an airy deck that is hungry for brains. And my choice for this is the Ink Witch Tarot. And when I heard hungry for brains, my thought was kind of like an airy deck that really just, like the interpretations of the cards and the artwork really just requires your full attention. And so this really, when I think of airy decks to begin with, this one always comes to mind because it just feels like it has that air energy to me. I really love this one. This is a favorite of mine, especially for reading for other people. I tend to use this for reading for others more so than I even use it for myself. But it also is one that the artwork is all so incredibly intentional that it requires your full brain power, I feel like. Not in the way of like needing to like have all this prior knowledge to use it, but that it's like you really need to examine what's going on there. And so with something that is hungry for brains, that's just where my brain went to. But this, I think it's the color palette of this one that makes it feel so airy to me. Because it also feels kind of like a winter deck to me, but there's this magical way that Eric Mail, I hope I'm saying that right, uses these colors and paints things that it creates this interesting like sparkle. I feel like the deck sparkles. There's no other way for me to say that because it does, it sparkles. And so it feels kind of a little bit in the ether for me as well. But I really, really enjoy this deck. I should look and see. Oh, our pizza's here. How exciting. They rang the door though. That's unfortunate. Usually they just leave it. Do I answer? I should. Okay, hold on. Okay. Wow, caught on camera. The real-time reaction of me getting nervous to answer the door. Anyways, so that's that. So that is my, what am I even doing? Where did I put my phone? Oh my gosh. Now I'm all frazzled. Ugh, I hate answering the door. Okay, that is my zombie deck. The Ink Witch Tarot. Alright, let's move on. Alright, next we've got the Pennywise the Clown, a deck that is deceivingly whimsical, but it's actually very intense. And my pick for that is, oh no! What is this one called? For this being like one of my favorites, the way I forget the name. Oh, okay. Oh my gosh. Forest of Enchantment. And you know what it is? It's because the title on the book is different. Which I think is fun. Like the way they named it is fun, but you know, messes with me sometimes. Okay, anyways, so this deck is, of course, a tried and true, forever favorite. very whimsical. It's got a very fairy tale theme to it. What I like about it though is that it doesn't directly call out any fairy tales. It's got plenty of cards that are not directly related to any certain fairy tale. But I like that it's very, very intertwined into there. And so, as you can see, it's got an extremely whimsical feel. But what I love is that it brings the intensity of those like original fairy tale stories where they weren't meant to kind of have a happy ending, they were meant to teach a lesson. So whenever I use this deck, I find that the readings really always hit exactly where they need to, in a way where it's not hiding anything from me. So my readings with this one tend to be really intense in that way, because I also have the feeling with this deck, like it really knows me. It doesn't even have that with the certain deck where it's like, this deck knows me inside and out, and that's how this deck feels for me. So there's that layer of intensity too, but the artwork is so whimsical. And I love the combination of the two. Oh, this is my guy. That card comes up all the time, and I love it. I love the artwork in this deck. Just everything about it is so amazing, so magical. But it does read very intensely. For me, I should say. I love it! I love it! So that is my Pennywise the Clown deck, and that is a Force of Enchantment Tarot. Okay, and last but not least, we've got the Mummy, a deck that is covered in many layers. And for me, that one is the Terra Volatile Tarot. This is the deck I am using for the Drop 'em 78 challenge through Mindful Tarot's channel and Facebook page. And the reason I wanted to do so is because I've had this deck for years now, and just I don't feel like I know it. It felt like one I really needed to do this kind of very intentional, mindful practice with to really work through it. And I'm already reaping the rewards of choosing this deck, and I'm so happy I did. I did get the new big book, and it's amazing. And so with the Drop 'em 78 challenge, it's going through a card a day, reading through those passages in the book, and just really getting to know this deck. And while I'm doing so, I'm seeing that, I mean, I knew it before, but I didn't know it because I didn't go through and read it myself, but all of these cards have so many layers to the details, and it brings in mythology and astrology, just alchemy, so many different things. And actually, now that I'm going through and really going card by card, it doesn't feel overwhelming. It doesn't do it in this big, overwhelming way. Now, I've got the expansion pack in here as well, and the alternative cards, because as I'm going, I put it all back together so that while I go through the Drop 'em 78, I am choosing which card I want, which has been really, really fun, because I did go through and do that when I first got the deck, but it was more so going off of just intuitively, like, okay, which one do I like here? But now it's sort of like reading through the reasoning behind the two different images and making the choice based on that. And it's been so much fun and so rewarding. So this had to be my Mummy one, because I'm just discovering all of the layers. This is one of the cards that came with getting the book. I mean, beautiful, right? So good. So that is my deck for the Mummy, and that is the Terra Volatile Tarot, and that is my last deck to show you today. So I'm so excited to see more of these tags done. Let me know if you have any answers to these, just curious, but I hope you had a wonderful week, and I will see you again very soon.